And it should not be an occupational hazard of an elementary school student to go to school and for this to happen to them. And I really hope people don't speculate, don't jump to their usual political conclusions, don't call for these sweeping, massive changes while people are grieving. And it sounds to me like may not even have been reunited with their children yet.
Okay, so don't everybody jump to conclusions. Don't try to do anything legally to change this. That's what Kellyanne Conway was saying. Now, oddly enough, while the Republicans won't allow literally anything to be done in regards to guns, it doesn't matter if 90% of the country agrees on background checks, 99%, 120%. It wouldn't matter, literally nothing. And background checks are, by the way, the smallest, most shallow, it's like pudding soft regulations. They won't even allow that. But they do have ideas. There are things that the right wants to do, and I want to run through some of these insane things that they're proposing. So we're gonna start off with Ted Cruz. Take a look at this.
We know from past experience that the most effective tool for keeping kids safe is armed law enforcement on the campus. You know, inevitably, when there's a murder of this kind, you see politicians try to politicize it. You see Democrats and a lot of folks in the media whose immediate solution is to try to restrict the constitutional rights of law-abiding citizens. That doesn't work.
Okay, so Ted Cruz is an idiot, a weenie, a liar, and all of that's on display in this particular case. He says don't politicize it. He immediately did, saying we should have more armed guards in the schools. Oops, they did. In this particular case, the thing that he thinks would have solved this problem literally did not. As was confirmed by a member of the Texas Department of Public Safety, the shooter crashed his car near the school, got out with a gun and wearing body armor. Literally none of that does Ted Cruz want to change. He wants them to have access to guns and body armor. Law enforcement engaged him. He made his way into the school anyway and went classroom to classroom shooting. They have armed guards, they do. They have a massive budget in that area. They also, by the way, have a congressman who enthusiastically crows about how he stopped any gun control legislation from being passed. So there's an idea, Rashad, that you're always gonna hear. The guns in schools aren't a problem. It's just that you need more guns. When someone starts shooting, everyone else should start shooting too. Of course, in this case, it didn't help. That's not gonna stop Ted Cruz from proposing it next time.
Yeah, and this is how insane it is, man. Literally, politicians are elected to solve policy problems. When there's a problem like this, which is really the most extreme problem you will have, a person killing a bunch of children at one time. That's a real policy problem in a country. When the killer obtained the gun legally, just turned 18, had a history of posting things that were cryptic and seemed as if they were threatening to a group of children, still able to get a gun, right? Still able to get this weaponry. The people who are in charge of solving that issue by way of policy, those on the right are saying, well, let's not talk about the politicians who are elected to solve this problem. Well, what in the hell are we supposed to talk about? What are we supposed to do? Joe Biden comes out yesterday and tells people to pray together. I didn't elect you to be my pastor, Joe. I elected you to be my president. So now I need a presidential policy related response to this. That's what we elected you to do, not to sing Kumbaya or just to give us words of encouragement. There are inspirational speakers that can do that. You, sir, are president of the United States of America. You got to start acting like it.
Exactly. Yeah, I would add, I want Ted Cruz to start acting like he's a senator from that state. I want him to at least pretend that he cares more about stopping more of these Texas massacres than he does stopping like Ruger's stock price from dropping slightly. It is clear where his loyalties lie.
Like he wants to stop critical race theory from being taught in K through 12 education, something that's not even taught in K through 12. If they had that vigor for something that's actually a problem like this, then problem solved.
Yeah, exactly. By the way, they've spent literally months talking constantly about protecting our kids from what? The Handmaid's Tale, a book about being gay. Those are the true threats, of course. That's not the only idea though, the armed guards. One guest was brought into Fox News in the immediate aftermath of the shooting to say that we need man traps and tripwires. I'm not gonna play this video because I don't hate the audience, but I will read a little bit of what this, I'm not gonna swear, what this person had to say. Man traps, a series of interlocking doors at the school entrance that are triggered by a tripwire. The tripwire can be a gunshot, broken glass, a manual switch tossed by the school employees, and it traps the shooter like a rat. And when he's trapped like a rat, we're buying time. The most precious commodity these children can ever get is time to run, time to hide, time to get away from this madman and his bullets. Not his guns, notice, they don't say the guns, just the bullets. It's tripwires, it's man traps, it's not labor, it's not gun control. Well, why not? Why don't we have really tall walls with parapets at the top and maybe like a drawbridge that comes down and a moat? You can stock it with gators, Rashad. You can do all of these things, not stop the person from getting access to the most capable, like the weapons most capable of gunning down massive amounts of civilians possible. So that guy wants this guy to be trapped like a rat. He also wants him to have an AR, and he wants him to have like armor penetrating bullets, and he wants him to have body armor of his own. He wants him to have large capacity magazines. He wants to briefly delay the shooter, but once he's past the delay, he wants him to be equipped like a T-1000. He wants him to be Rambo after he gets past the tripwires and the booby traps and all of that.
Let me say this, man. This is a damn shame. Literally, your solution takes more energy, more might, more willpower than the simple solution of reform. So you want to create a solution that literally is impossible. And let me explain why it's impossible. I can't even believe I'm entertaining this ridiculous ass statement, but I do want to speak to it in a legitimate way. Liability. If you create booby traps inside of school systems, insurance companies will not insure that school. There will be no insurance policy. Here's why. Because the courts have ruled that if you have booby traps on your property, commercial or residential, and somebody is trespassing, even if they're trespassing illegally, or if they're trespassing by accident, which is possible, if that booby trap activates, then you are 100% responsible for what happens to that individual. So no insurance company would ever insure a facility that has booby traps inside of it, period. So it's a ridiculous solution, but it shows you how extreme they're willing to go in order to spin a narrative that does not include guns, right? Even as you highlighted, they refuse to say guns in the actual statement about guns. They want to say bullets rather than guns. That is intentional. That's by design. That's not a mistake.
100%. Yeah. That guy was on Sean Hannity, by the way. Sean Hannity, I'm gonna guess, what was he being watched by 1-2 million people during that segment? In the immediate aftermath of a devastating mass shooting, he decides to give time to a guy whose political advice is based on the fact that before his news hit, he was watching Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade or Home Alone. Yep. That's the solution. We're gonna quickly run through a few of the other things that they brought up. Sean Hannity says we need to give tax breaks for police officers to patrol schools. Police officers are already there. By the way, if you're a police officer or a member of the military and you see that and think, oh, Sean Hannity wants me to get a tax break to do this. Bear in mind, Sean Hannity also wants you to face people who have bullets capable of penetrating your body armor. He wants you to have a very good chance of being killed during that shooting. They also blamed an anti-police narrative for mass shootings. It's just that you guys are mean to cops. That's what manifests mass shooters and the weapons they need to gun people down. Senator Ron Johnson blamed the secularization of society and a loss of faith. I think the solution is renewed faith. Nothing to do with guns. By the way, like going more and more abstract, that's where they feel comfortable in this area. Lauren Boebert tweeted, "You cannot legislate away evil." Which I respond, oh good, I'm not trying to. I want to get rid of the guns, not the metaphysical construct.
Right.
AOC responded by saying, why even be in Congress if you don't believe in doing your job? Just quit and let someone who actually gives a damn do it instead of acting like a useless piece of furniture when babies are shot with AR-15s that we let teen boys impulse buy before they can legally have a beer. And if you think, well, okay, you're picking on Lauren Boebert, obviously nobody else would be so stupid as to focus on evil. No, they are. Tommy Lauren tweeted, it's not about guns, it's about evil. The Democrats only want it to be about guns so they don't have to address the evil. What I've noticed, Rashad, maybe you've noticed this too, is that the mass shooters don't generally arm themselves with evil for these shootings. They usually go for the guns, actually.
Yeah, and see, they would not apply that linear logic to anything else other than when people use guns to commit mass shootings. They won't say about individuals who commit other crimes. They won't say, well, we don't have a crime issue, we have an evil issue. When it comes to them increasing sentences for those who are convicted of nonviolent drug offenses, they don't say, well, it's not the issue of drugs, it's the issue of evil. They don't do that. Yeah. They create policies, and they want these policies to be implemented in a way that would deter individuals or punish individuals who are committing nonviolent drug offenses. Now, obviously, I disagree with their methodology. I think prevention and rehabilitation is key, but the point is, they don't have that kind of jargon for anything other than mass shootings, which means they are hypocritical in their own proposed linear logic about what this is supposed to solve. Dr. King came up against this during his time when those on the right and left said to Dr. King that you cannot legislate morality. But he said in response, but you can't make it illegal for them to lynch a black man. And he said, I'll take that, okay?
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.